Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, is love hard enough without adding the added complications of a different race or religion or culture? We're here from both sides. Today's show is all about sharing. It's getting quite romantic already. Our online community is very happy to share.
We really are.
TMI, digital producer Malika Balai?
No such thing.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Precursor.
There's time.
Yeah, there is still time. I'm learning so much about our online community because, like you said, they are sharing their own personal stories.
Yeah.
I want to give a little tidbit of one of those stories.
Nice.
Rudaba writes in on Twitter, couples are asked, what's wrong with your own kind? Aren't the kids going to end up confused? Married life will be so difficult. Well, this tweet and others on our comment thread have turned into a place for solace and advice. So we want you to join that conversation as well. Tweet us your questions and your comments with hashtag AJStream.
So today's conversation, it may well resonate with you. So if you want to join in the conversation, you can share your thoughts directly on the stream's website. So you can go to the stream homepage, and that is at stream.aljazeera.com. You can catch up on the latest with the show, find out the Twitter handles of our guests that are coming up. The tweets have been going on, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, and you can add your comments there as well.
Hi, my name's Tara Fatahi and I'm a PhD student in medicine and I am in the stream.
Does love have boundaries of race, religion or culture, or should it? Cross-cultural relationships are on the rise across the world, and in the US, for example, there are around about 15% of new marriages. Here's what our international community had to say about multicultural relationships.
Not only is it easy being in a cross-cultural relationship, but it's also intellectually stimulating. You open yourself to new ideas, beliefs, cultures.
Kind of strangers asked me a very inappropriate question about if I give my boyfriend money or if it even works, because he's probably even cheating at me and has 3 different wives, which I find very, very rude and racist.
We try to be conscious that whiteness isn't the default in our relationship. And as an Asian American, I find myself going into that mode automatically in my everyday interactions. And so we just always try to have an open dialogue about race.
I think the most difficult part about being in an interfaith relationship for me has been trying to talk to my parents and explaining to them how I am compatible with this person even though they have a different faith, and how our collective practices give us a different perspective into our personal faiths, and that actually makes us better people emotionally, spiritually, and practically.
So that's what some of our community are actually thinking and feeling and sharing some of their stories. But on today's show, we're going to speak to couples who have dealt with the advantages and the pitfalls of cross-cultural love. So joining us from Atlanta, Alison West and her husband, Michael David Murphy. They are on the website, We Are the 15%. And from San Francisco, Zara Norbush and her husband, Duncan Jacobson. They overcame some pretty tough cultural and religious obstacles in their relationship, and we'll hear about that in a moment. And also from San Francisco, Nizma Baig. She's a lawyer and blogger and has dealt with cultural and religious challenges in a recent relationship. So couples and single, welcome to the stream. It's great to have you here. Let's start with Alison and Michael. How did you meet, Alison and Michael?
Believe it or not, we met on eArmy. We met online.
I believe it. Now, so what was the process? So you did some online stuff and then you physically met. So I want to, did you know what you were letting yourself in for before you did that?
We didn't really. I mean, there's a huge X factor when you actually meet someone in what I like to call meet space. When you actually see them for the first time, you're asking yourself this question, is this going to work? And we've done so much work up to that point together on the phone, online, through email, communicating, talking about what was important in our lives. But we really knew each other. We stacked the deck for ourselves.
So, yeah, go on, Alison.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think one of the great things I think about having met that way is that we weren't even intending to use the site to meet each other. You know, we weren't fully committed to that. And out of all the women in the world and all the men in the United States, we met each other. Michael set his parameters pretty wide, and I did as well. And
and we put our faith in an algorithm. I mean,
seriously.
So, I mean, obviously, you sitting together, it's obvious what the cultural differences are as you're sitting together. At what point did that mean anything to you, or does it?
It does in small ways every day, in the kind of obvious visual way, in the way people see us or react to us. But in the day-to-day of our lives, it doesn't. Our sameness is what brings us together. And a difference too, but it's that we were both raised in healthy, loving families who cared about us, that our value system aligns. These are the things that are far more important than the fact that we might look like we're from different
heritages. Yeah, different heritage.
Well, Nisma, I want to bring you in here because a lot of our community members are talking about stigma. Now, that's stigma from the outside, but it's also internal stigma. Nadia Ali on Twitter says, in today's world, personal prejudice continues to leave room for doubt in the minds of many. So I think this begs the question, did you have your own little seed of doubt before you entered into your previous relationship? Did you have preconceived notions, or was that something that you were, interested and excited about going into?
Sure. I think that I always knew that I was not going to be in the traditional couple that my parents had always kind of envisioned for me. I feel that with my career as well, and just everything in my life. So from a really young age, I kind of knew it would be an uphill battle. I never actually pictured having a formal wedding because I didn't think that my parents would ever be willing to come. So it was just a different kind of outlook on life.
And they wouldn't be willing to come, but could you elaborate for our audience who doesn't know your own personal background or that of the person you were dating?
So I'm Indian American, and my parents are from Hyderabad, India, and they were raised Muslim, and so was I. And they just had a very strict view on me marrying a Muslim man who was also Indian, preferably from Hyderabad. But that was when I was a kid, and they had all that opportunity to kind of predict what was going to happen. And they learned pretty soon that I was a little different than what they expected. And so now they've slowly started to accept the changes that I've forged in my life, and I think that they're growing, and it's nice.
So before I reintroduce you to Zara and Duncan, I have to tell you that Zara is a stand-up comedian, and she uses her relationship in her stand-up act. I'm just going to play you just a tiny little bit. It's really about, how she talks about Duncan. Duncan, I hope you know about this. Have a listen to this.
I just have to tell my Iranian, Muslim parents that my white, translucent, atheist, infidel, non-believing boyfriend is moving in with me.
So, Duncan, I hope you've heard that before, and we haven't just played that to international TV. So, Zara and Duncan, basically you put a ring on it. Let's see the rings. Congratulations.
Oh, here it is.
Very nice. How long have you been married now?
A month. Yeah, a month and a half, I think.
Oh, it's still shiny. That's lovely. Look how close they're sitting. That's so cute. Okay, so when was the moment when you thought, okay, I am in love with this person, and then what were you thinking after that?
2 years into the relationship?
Yep, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Wow, that took a
while. We
while.
were both very marriage averse. It took us a long time to acknowledge the fact that we were both still around with the same person after 2 years. And we had been together 9 years before we got married a month ago.
That's amazing. So, Zara, when you first got together with Duncan, I'm just thinking, what were you thinking when you saw him, and did you see challenges in front of you, perhaps?
When I saw him for the first time, I saw rock hard abs. And I thought, I believe him when this guy in the dorms tells me that he's a water polo player. And that was the first thing on my mind.
Duncan?
Yeah, the first thing on my mind was telling her a good story about how I played water polo, which wasn't even true. But
See, what I'm hearing right now is that you're using a lot of humor to deflect what possibly could be quite difficult for some couples. Am I reading too much into this?
Well, I think you're right. I think it was difficult, and because we were in college and my parents weren't, in the dorms living with me, and I wasn't living with my parents, I sort of had the freedom to put it far, far, far into the back of my mind and not actually have to confront those questions until 2 years in the relationship when we wanted to move in together. And then it became a very big conversation.
Well, Allison and Michael, I want to go to you because we just heard Zahra mention family and that they weren't in the dorms, but I'd like to know what your family thought of your relationship. And based on these tweets, I want to know if you had a similar experience. On Twitter, one person says family and friends are quick to highlight religious, linguistic, cultural, and other barriers and discourage such couples. And on Facebook, Marissa writes in, our greatest triumph has been tuning out the noise and stripping away all of the politics of our respective religions, focusing on God's actual commands and instructions. So in her case, it was different religions coming together. But that stripping out the noise, I know that that's something that resonates also with you.
Absolutely. We talk about kind of looking for reactions and being hyper aware of others' kinds of their reactions to us as we, move through the community or travel even. We took a trip to Alabama, and even though we're in Atlanta, Georgia, we're still like, oh, Alabama's probably more racist.
How was it in Alabama for you?
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, seriously. Nice. Yeah, we decided, we need to turn those antennas off. But I will say, when talking to my father, who, had been through the civil rights movement here in the U.S. and who had experienced firsthand all kinds of discrimination just because of the way he looked, I was honestly a little concerned about telling him, hey, here's someone I'm very serious about, and how is that for you, and he talked about having things in common and that there were cultural things that may be misunderstood, but he still trusts my judgment, and he and my mother raised us all to not have the same kind of emotional and racial historical baggage that they may have had in their generation, and I really appreciate that. They made sure we were products of our own generation and of our own kind of cultural time, and that's been really beneficial. And as they've grown to know Michael and of course love him, they understand. They love you. They understand that we have conversations about race all the time.
What do you talk about when you talk about race? What do you talk about?
Everything under the sun.
Our conversations now tend to center around our daughter, who turns 2 in a couple weeks, and kind of what world will she inherit, and specifically with creating this website, weareth15%.com, where we're featuring photos that from all over the country that people are sending in of their families. That maybe someday there'll be a point where our daughter will just be like, "Why'd you start this website?
Yeah.
Like this is silly. Like why? We want the issue to become boring almost."
I'm looking through some of the sort of blended, mixed heritage families and some really beautiful shots here. I want to ask Nisma about your friends. When you were in your multicultural relationship, what were your friends saying? Were they helpful or hurtful?
Most of my friends were pretty great, actually. It was mostly my extended family and my cousins who were tricky.
Now, what were they saying? What were the cousins saying to you?
Well, they kept asking me if it was just like a fling. And, if I was getting serious, then it wouldn't be a good idea. And that it's fine to have flings when you're young, but now that I'm getting older, I should really settle with somebody who's more like me.
Okay, so skipping over to Zahra and Duncan, how about your family? What's the family reaction in your homes?
Speaking of flings, I think that's a surprise Duncan and I had. I think we went into it thinking that we would just be a fling, that we were hanging out in college and that's all it would be. And
so was Duncan your exotic hot man then? Was he like you're dipping into being the exotic world? Obviously you're quite boring, but Duncan is exotic.
He was my exotic white man.
Nice.
And when I first brought him home to my parents, my parents just thought, okay, she's bringing a friend over, and they met him, and I explained that he's my boyfriend, and I think they also kind of like what Nisma was talking about. They thought that it was going to be a fling, and then a year later when I said we want to move in together, you know, they were like, why is this even a question? It shouldn't even be a question that you would ask us. It's non-Islamic. How could you even bring it up? It doesn't even make sense to ask.
Right. Duncan?
Yeah, for me, I was kind of going through the process a little bit more of an outsider's perspective. And from my perspective as the atheist moving in, you know, I didn't have any moral problems with it. But at the same time, I felt, you know, I wanted to be respectful of what was going on for their family. And I didn't really, you know, I was being very careful about stepping on toes throughout the whole process with my non-belief.
Tricky. Malika?
Well, Allison, I have a Facebook comment here I want to pose to you. Anthony writes in about his own intercultural relationship. He says, I think the biggest challenge is the assumptions that people make in regards to why you date outside of your race and or religion. So were there assumptions that people around you that you know, even though it's perhaps that you don't? I know that you told our producers ahead of the show that when you're out with your kids, there are assumptions and comments that people make about your relationship.
Right. Well, you know, when I'm out with my daughter, I've been asked if I'm her nanny because I seem so loving. Am I her nanny or her babysitter?
All right, so Alison, be honest here. We've got little pictures of little Alexandra when she was a tiny little tot. So be very honest here. When you're with your daughter and someone says, hey, you the nanny, what are you really thinking?
Oh, boy.
Really thinking?
Oh God, I can't even say it. It's
you can bleep it. Do your own bleeps.
What the bleep are you talking about?
Exactly.
My bleeping daughter. Mind your business. Shop around for a nanny somewhere else.
Whoa. Now, what do you actually say? That's what you're thinking. What do you actually say?
I cheerfully say, "This is my daughter." Of course, I'm loving.
Nice. And then, Michael, when you know when Alison is going through that, how does that make you feel?
Ooh, it hits you in this raw nerve place that you didn't know you developed the second your child was born, and it's called the dad nerve, and you want to just run out and start, throwing some Nerf balls around or something.
Wow.
You know, you go from instant to apoplectic, and then the goal with all of these things, if they're bad reactions or stuff that somebody said, is to let it go, honestly, because the toxicity of it can eat you alive. So we choose to just kind of be better about it and not carry around that bad as a kind of baggage.
Well, Femi, you know, ahead of the show, you and I and some of our producers were talking about in conversations like this, we usually focus on the negatives, all of the cons. So there are members of our community who wanted us to see the benefits of some of these relationships. Jauher writes in, cross-culture is not an issue. My first requirement was to have the same religion, as religion brings the same value system, he says. This month, he and his wife celebrated their 30th anniversary. These marriages bring new perspectives and awareness on global issues. So Zahra, what are some of the pros, unexpected pros perhaps, of your relationship?
Yeah. Well, I think that you have to really have stellar communication, you know, and it really highlights that. I remember seeing some of the tweets that were talking about, you know, what are you going to tell your kids? Your kids will be so confused. And I mean, honestly, at home is where you have the best communication. And if you expect your kids to get along and work with and collaborate with and be in the world with people of other faiths and other cultures, and you can't do that inside of your own home, you know, how do you expect your kids to pick that up and take it out into the world with them? So I think one of the greatest benefits, one of the greatest gifts that it brings is, you know, how much it brings us so much closer together because we do have to have those conversations.
Right. So Sarah, as you're talking, we're actually showing some pictures from our actual office. You can tell that we really are quite a blended, mixed heritage kind of team, which is why we love doing this show. I'm just wondering though, when you fight, Duncan, with Zara, what is it that you fight about? I mean, a little bird told me that there was a little discussion about Christmas. Why would an atheist be fighting about Christmas?
I'm very
Not that I want to start you arguing in the first month of marriage here, but let's go there. Christmas, Duncan, tell us that story.
Yeah, I'm very pro Santa Claus, and I kind of took it as like a rite of passage, you know. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, of course Santa Claus, we're going to teach them about Santa Claus. I'm an atheist, but of course they're going to get Santa Claus. And then, like, that kind of blindsided me, how quickly she was like, no, kibosh. And so that hasn't even, this is still in discussion.
No Santa.
It's still a debate.
I don't know if no Santa's going to apply, but we'll see.
So, are you thinking ahead to? I mean, you've only your wedding rings are still shiny. You've only been married for a month, but you have been together for almost a decade. So, are you thinking about the patter of little feet yet, and how you're going to deal with that?
We're going to have to talk through it. I mean, there's really no other easy answer than you have to debate and communicate and, hear where the other person is coming from and where there's some wounding and where, he doesn't feel heard and where I'm willing to put the kibosh on Santa Claus.
Oh, we're going to get our online community around the world just like, Duncan, yes, Duncan, let's have Santa Claus. I can feel you're getting some international support here, Dunk. Okay, Malika.
Well, you mentioned kids, and our community has things to say about that. Lucia says, my children have so much more in their world, the American and the Fijian, and so do I. Another person writes in about the children aspect. Raisa says, cons, you don't really fit in anywhere, but pros, kids are much more cultured and open-minded. But Nisma, I want to go to you with this next one. Someone has a question specifically for you. Sarah tweets in, from a gory white girl to Nisma, in your opinion, what's the best way to win over Muslim Desi parents? And she's of course referring to South Asian parents. Advice?
For me, it's to basically polish up your resume. I know that I definitely get points by being an attorney, having a good family that comes from like, a decent background. Both my parents are professionals. I'm a professional. Keep all of the sowing your oats or adventure stories to yourself or inside the relationship. No one wants to hear about your trip to Mexico. Maybe leave that one aside and talk about volunteer work. Just approach it like you would any job interview.
See, Nisma, I see Alison and Michael, they're together. Zara and Duncan, they're together, and you're in a little box all by yourself. So, do you have a man right now? You put off multicultural dating. Give us an update.
I am seeing somebody right now. He is Agora, a white guy, and he's great. We've been dating for about 8 months. I'm actually in his apartment right now because his internet connection.
Oh, it's going well, okay.
Yeah. His internet connection's better than mine.
Is he there? Is he with you?
He's roaming around doing
All right, ask him just to walk past your shot and then we can see what he looks like.
Let's see. Brendan,
we've got 30 seconds to see you.
He plays water polo, definitely.
Yeah, I have a feeling, Duncan. Yeah. Do we see Brendan? Let's see. Okay.
This is Brendan.
Oh yeah, he looks like a water polo man.
Very nice. You see now we're the matchmakers, Malika Bilal. We have Alison and Michael, we have Zara and Duncan, and we brought together Nisma and Brendan. This is how it should be. It's been so much fun talking to you. We're going to talk some more in the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. I'm going to see if I can dig and get even more personal than we've already got.
I think it's possible.
I think it's possible. I have the means. In the meantime, I'm going to say, let's take a look at tomorrow's show. On the next program, a movement that started with a selfie. We'll look at Lebanon's Not a Martyr campaign and hear what Lebanese youth have to say about the divisions and instability in their country. But stay with us. The romantic, the personal post show is next about multicultural relationships, and you will find us at stream.aljazeera.com. And if you want to tweet any of our guests, #AJStream. We will see you online. Thanks for watching. Take care. Hello again, this is the Stream's online post show. Today, a conversation about love. Does it trump all, or should it fit within boundaries? Let's get right back to the conversation. Let me remind you, we've got Alison and Michael, we've got Nizma. I don't know if Brendan's still around. Is he still there? Maybe.
He's roaming around,
yeah,
but
he's gone off to make dinner
today.
like a good boyfriend. And Zara and Duncan, it's great to have you all here. You are so positive and so upbeat because this show could be about all the terrible things that could go wrong, and you're actually accentuating the positive. We're finding a lot of comments from our online community, people watching, who want advice about how do you make it work. Can I just pick your brains for that? Because even on the Facebook, people are advising each other. Yeah, so Nizma, you gave a great one about, polishing up your resume. You really have to impress your partner's family. So Zara, from your perspective, what advice would you give couples in your situation?
In my particular family situation, the rule was absolute honesty. I know that doesn't work for a lot of families. I have I have some friends who, their point of view is, and it works for them. Why, do we have to bring up things that we can sort of keep quiet and not have to discuss and still get along? But for Duncan and I, we just knew that if we didn't address these conflicts head on from the beginning, that they would come up, 2 years into the relationship, 4 years into the relationship, 5 years into the relationship, at the wedding, when we have kids. And so we knew that big conversation, with the utmost honesty amongst all parties had to happen from the top.
Sure. See, Duncan, my brother-in-law is an atheist, and my mother went to church a lot to pray about that. It's working out really well so far, particularly as the grandson is gorgeous. What's your take on this? What advice would you give to guys in your situation?
Yeah, well, there's a really long tradition of non-believers in relationships with believers and kind of going through the motions. Everybody knows about everybody probably has a relation in that kind of situation. I would suggest not doing that. I think it's dishonest, and if you are somebody who's in a relationship and you're not a believer and they're a believer, make your stance clear, explain it, and don't shy away from it, but at the same time, keep in mind that there's no reason that person can't have a religion while you don't have one. It's just, you just need to have that discussion from your perspective the same way a religious person would.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were just showing, as you were talking, some of our team and their various different partners and families that are mixed and blended and mixed heritage. And that wasn't me, by the way, wearing a ridiculous outfit. That was my sister.
Oh, I missed that.
Yes.
That's great. My sister was also in there.
She was?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So clearly it is a popular thing to do. Alison and Michael, I want to bring you back in here because a lot of people are saying, this is a great thing. It's a cheery thing. Yasmina writes in on Facebook, people forget that love can fight everything. But on the other hand, other people say maybe that's a bit too rosy of a picture. Jennifer writes in, people will warn you it will be hard, and you, in love, roll your eyes. But it is hard. Culture, tradition, family, all of those things are important. And Alison, I know just even among my own friend group, my own circle, when someone is dating someone of the opposite ethnic background, one of the things that comes up is this a fetish? Is that something you've had to deal with? Your own friends saying, why is he with you?
Yeah, she must be super hot, and he's really lucky. I've overheard people say.
Not particularly my friends, but we've
Zara,
seen
she's cracking herself up now.
We've seen, I'm okay. But we've definitely seen comments about that. But then that's more telling of the people who say that. It's more telling of their limitations and their own thoughts.
Do you think
it really has nothing to do with us?
They're jealous, right?
Right, or they haven't opened their hearts and they haven't opened their minds. If you give this stuff a bit more thought and you understand that all relationships take effort. All successful and healthy relationships take effort and good communication. And I think you've cut out a lot of the nonsense right there. There will always be external factors that are going to affect your relationship, but it's up to you and your partner to make sure you take care of the communication within the relationship to make it work. It's up to you all, regardless of what everyone else thinks. Because at the end of the day, it's just you two.
I'm going to play. Yeah. Oh, go on. Who said yes? Jump in.
No, I was gonna jump in and say, definitely Duncan would like to think that his hotness would, get him through arguments for all 9 years. But trust me, after about 8 3/4 of a year of a decade, then you have to kind of have something with stronger roots than hotness.
Oh,
Sure.
that's a shame. Thank you for that advice.
I mean, I have something to add to that.
Yeah,
is that
go on.
Love is inherently a huge risk, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to play it safe with something like that? Like, oh, well, we went to the same school together and I know their family. I mean, if you're going to risk something with love, go all in. Like go all in, take it on, develop this thing between you. And I do believe that it offers a little bit of superhero kind of cloaking, and that you really can deflect a lot of criticism, culturally or familial, and make it through, the two of you.
You guys are going to make me cry. This is lucky I've got this just standing by here just in case. That was a tissue if you can't actually see the show and you're just listening to it. I want to play an advert from IKEA. There are so many adverts right now and so many images of multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial, lots of ads, lots of media, lots of movies. This one from Sweden really made me laugh a lot. Have a look at this one. Woman, look what's wrong. Our couples we have on our set and part of our guests are obviously mixed heritage and mixed culture going on there, and just doing a regular ad, and there's nothing unusual about that. Could be any couple at any time, apart from they're both very attractive. So when you see things like that, Zara and Duncan and Alison and Michael and Nisma and Brendan, when you see those images where they're trying to make a variety of different couples, very normal and very everyday, is that helpful, or do you think they're going for the shock value? They just want people to talk about them? I suppose, let me start with Zara first of all, because I know Alison and Michael, your website is about that. But Zara and Duncan, you go first.
I mean, I think it's, the more that it is in mainstream culture, then the more that it helps, One of the things that I found, I wrote for the anthology Love Inshallah, The Secret Love Lives of American Muslim Women. And one of the things that we discovered writing it is that all of us writing in thought that there were so many, interactions, conflicts that were exclusive to us in our traditions. And it turned out that they weren't at all, that there were 24 other writers in the anthology with very similar difficulties and very similar, positive points in their relationship.
Sure.
And we think that it is exclusive to us simply because there isn't enough of it discussed and out there.
Right. Nisma, when you see couples on TV, on ads or posters that look like you and Brendan, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I think it's kind of normal. I really like seeing that kind of thing, and it doesn't really make me turn my head. I was more surprised at that cute little cow full of milk being spilled. But yeah, I think now media really has picked up on different cultures melding together, and I see it more often on billboards and TV shows, and I think that's great.
I don't want to play this whole of this Cheetos ad, but there's an ad. I'm going to play it, Cheerios ad, and I'm going to play it as I talk over it. But there's a lovely little girl. This could be Alexandra in 3 years' time. And there's a mum, and then there's a dad. I don't want to spoil the punchline, but the daddy's on the sofa, and the little girl puts Cheerios on the dad, and there she goes, going off to the living room. People went apoplectic in the US when they saw this ad. What do you think's going on, Alison and Michael? This is your family. This is every day, right?
Yeah, it's every day for us, and it will increasingly become every day for America. I mean, all the demographic trends say this is how America is going. This is the face of the new American family. So as the demographics move in this direction, people have to become comfortable with it. We're not asking permission for them to be comfortable. We are the 15% and growing. So it's obviously smart of marketers to start hopping on it now, and it to start kind of advancing in popularity across the media spectrum. And it's just gonna only happen with more frequency.
So where does that comfort level come from? Does it come from you making people feel comfortable? Is that because Alison doesn't say, what the bleep are you talking about? This is my baby. And she goes, oh no, it's my baby. Or does it come from the rest of the world catching up with you? How do we get to that comfortable accepting position?
See, I think the thing about acceptance is it's almost as if you're asking someone else for permission to be. And I don't believe in that. I think we are a reality in the same way, you know, anyone else who's kind of fought from marginalization is a reality. You know, we don't want to ask permission. We just want to be. And I feel like the images on our site, commercials like the Cheerios ad, all the billboards, all these things, even if they're sparking all kinds of outrage, are saying these things exist. Here they are. And the more we show families and similarities and commonalities, the more it will help those who aren't willing, I guess, intellectually or socially or emotionally. It will help them move right along with everyone else. Maybe not at the same pace, but that's okay, because we'll still be here.
And in moving right along, some of our community members tweeting in have ideas for how that's going to happen. Doja writes in on Twitter, cultural differences face criticisms, but he says the younger generations are beginning to change that. So I just want to end us off with a nice, happy story from someone who submitted their own experience. Jonathan on Facebook writes in, I'm a Sri Lankan in a relationship with a Thai girl. We often struggle with values that our society embedded on us, but you get the opportunity to reevaluate and introspect yourself.
Nice. Oh, do you know, we could talk forever. There's so much to talk about and share, and it's been such a pleasure doing it with all of you. So I'm just going to say, Alison, Michael, thank you so much. It's been great. Is there anything burning that you feel you need to say before I actually turn the internet off?
Oh, no, it's been great having this conversation.
All right, we really
the more of these we have, the better. Thank you.
All right, Nisma, just get Brendan for a moment so we can wave goodbye to him. In the meantime,
He's actually stepped out.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, do you think there's prospects? What do you think about him? I mean, it's 8 months. What do you think? Is he marriage material?
Oh, well, see, I think we're both not really there yet. It's only
all right. All right, I'll call you next month. I sound like one of your relatives, don't I? Yeah, you're not getting any younger, Nisma.
It's almost a fling.
Where are the grandchildren? I'm giving you a hard time. Probably just as well he's gone out. I was going to ask him that question too. Zara and Duncan. Nisma, thank you so much. Zara and Duncan, it's been a pleasure. Any last thoughts before I let you go back your normal daily life? Yes.
Say no to Santa. You don't have to give in.
Oh, Duncan, commiserations and congratulations all at the same time. You make a lovely couple, all of you do. It's been such a pleasure spending time with you. Oh, it feels so romantic. I like this show. Thank you, everybody.
I liked it also.
Yeah? All right. I didn't share all of my stories.
I know. I was giving you a look.
Yes. That's all right. More stories for another show. Talking about another show, let me tell you what we're doing tomorrow. A movement that started with a selfie. We'll look at Lebanon's Not a Martyr campaign and hear what Lebanese young people have to say about divisions and instability in their country. That conversation coming up on the next AJ stream. Until then, we are where we always are, online. Thanks for watching.